Call to order. Good evening, everyone. The date is January 28th, 2026. The time is 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call this public meeting of the Rochelle Park Township Committee to order. Open Public Meeting Act. Pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, notice of the January 28th, 2026 meeting was published on the Township website on January 7th, 2026, in the Bergen Record and Herald News on January 11th, 2026, and the Our Town on January 22nd, 2026. Notice of the closed session meeting was published on the Township website and transmitted to the Bergen Record and Herald News on January 23rd, 2026. Copies of all notices are on file with the Township Clerk and have been available to the public. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mayor, Committeewoman Apice and Deputy Mayor Chowinski will be running a bit late today. Committeewoman Judge Carvello?
Here.
Committeeman Smith?
Here.
And Mayor Miller?
Here. All right. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to adopt Resolution Number 26-054, authorizing the Township Committee to enter closed session to discuss legal issues, litigation, and potential litigation, contract negotiations, and attorney-client privilege matters. Topics include Tolfer Realty litigation, website contract, Ascend contract negotiation, fair share housing matters involving the Bank Diner property, sanitary pump station matters, and personnel matters including DPW job title removal and creation, and a building department job title. Do I have a motion?
So motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Judge Carvello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
And Mayor Miller?
Yes. Thank you. The Township Committee will now enter closed session for approximately 1 hour, after which we'll return to public session for further action. We are now in closed session. We're ready? We're ready. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Can I get a motion to come out of closed session? Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Apice? Yes. Committeewoman Judge Carvello?
Yes.
Okay, Committeeman Smith?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Chowinski is here, but not at the dais. And Mayor Miller?
Yes. Wonderful. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. All right. First item on our agenda is a presentation. So we're going to be recognizing new members of our CERT team. So I want to invite up Mr. Pete Donatello and the new members of the CERT team to the front of the dais for the presentation. Wherever's comfortable for you, this is great.
I'd like to address the council. Excuse me. Some people will be happy to hear that. Excuse me.
You guys want to stand? Do you want to have your backs here? See you.
It is a great pride to recognize our two newest CERT graduates, Lori O'Brien and her daughter Angela Corella. It's reassuring to know that in our community, there are still people who step forward, not just in skies of blue, but when danger threatens our township. Lori and Angela, along with our other CERT members, are individuals willing to assist our neighbors in the times of need. Through weeks of intense training, they have shown unwavering commitment to being ready when our community needs them the most. In times of crisis and uncertainty, the courage, selflessness, and dedication remind us of the true meaning of service and community. Their training included basic preparedness and working within the Incident Command System in NIMS, the National Incident Management System, disaster psychology, disaster medical operations, disaster fire suppression, terrorism awareness, and life search and rescue. They also successfully completed a comprehensive final exam, including written and practical exercises, and they were able to apply their training in performing search and rescue on fire simulated conditions, hands-on fire extinguisher operations, and removing a trapped victim under a trailer, and recognizing the hidden hazards associated with that type of extrication. Congratulations to Lori and Angela on this outstanding achievement and your commitment to serving our community. So thank you and welcome to the.
Thank you so much and congratulations. All right, our first item of discussion is the 2026 revaluation. So the assessor Ed Brown and representatives from ASI were present at the township special meeting on January 14th. And the township did put out some social media to inform residents about the reassessment letters that would be arriving, and those letters arrived in mailboxes around January 20th. Residents have begun meeting with representatives from the appraisal company in the senior center, and details on how to meet with a representative from ASI are included in the assessment letter, but we've invited the assessor back as well as the representative from ASI to answer any additional questions, so please come on down.
Good evening, Mayor and Committee. Just to follow up from my last appearance here, or maybe just to reiterate a few of the things that were said last time in case anybody was here. The evaluation, as we all know, the preliminary numbers have been completed, as you just mentioned. Letters have been sent to the taxpayers of the town. The big story here, specific to Rochelle Park, is that there has been a shift in the rateable base. Some of the tax burden has moved off of the commercial properties and onto the residential properties. As such, we are seeing some increases on average, although not every property, we're talking about averages here, but an average increase of roughly about $950 for the average taxpayer. Those numbers, of course, will change from property to property. So that's kind of the big story here. If anybody wants to meet with, I urge everybody actually to meet with a representative of Appraisal Systems, go over the property record card, make sure it's accurate. If there are any issues, they can have that corrected. They can re-inspect the property. There might be something that they were unaware of that you can make them aware of, and that might affect the value. Additionally, any properties that the evaluation company didn't get into, case law dictates that we have to estimate a property to the highest reasonable potential. So in that situation, we're forced to assume that the interior of the property might be renovated. If there's a basement, that basement might be finished. If there's an attic, that attic might be finished. Maybe we have more bathrooms than there really are in the house. So it's important that we accurately assess each property. So I urge anyone who didn't let their evaluation company in to contact Appraisal Systems and set up an inspection of the property.
And just to piggyback that just real quick, when you call, let them know you're calling for an inspection. Don't waste your time of having a meeting when you're going to review inaccurate data. So if you're aware that no one came inside or they can check for you, please make an appointment for an inspection immediately for that.
And also, I know, Mayor, that you mentioned that we are conducting meetings in the senior center. If that's not convenient for anyone, plenty of meetings are also scheduled over the phone, voice meetings. They can also get copies of the property record card if they email the appraisal systems or the reval company. The email address is very simple: rochellepark@asinj.com. It's also on the letter that the property owners received.
Wonderful. Do you know how many appointments have been made thus far?
Approximately 115. So
All right. Any questions from the Township Committee?
So I know there's a couple of questions about with the seniors. Hang on, thank you. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, so there is a program that it's known as PTR, Property Tax Reimbursement, but also better known as the Senior Freeze, which you mentioned. Anybody who's in that program, their taxes are frozen. So if they are seeing an increase from their evaluation, when their tax bills come due, and this doesn't take effect, even though it's going to be effective for the entire 2026 tax year, these changes in assessment won't actually hit until the 2026 tax bills are due, which is going to be, the bills will be mailed out in the late spring, early summer of 2026. But if anybody who has their taxes frozen, effectively, they're still going to be paying the same taxes they have been since the property was frozen. They'll have to pay out, if there is an increase, they'll have to pay out more now, but they'll be reimbursed the difference between where their base year was and where the taxes will be in 2026. And the other thing to mention too is the senior freeze is always a year behind. So the applications have yet to come out for the 2026 tax year. Typically, they're released by the Division of Taxation in late February, early March, but they'll be working on the 2025 tax year. So anybody who's eligible for the senior freeze, who's not in the program, if they were to enroll in it this year in 2026, they would be setting their base year at 2025. Hence, if they're looking at a big increase or any type of increase for 2026, it'll be mitigated by the senior freeze. They'll be reimbursed from the difference between that base year and where the taxes are in 2026.
And that's a question that I got as well. So why do the seniors have to pay their taxes up from first, just to be reimbursed nearly a year later?
Well, when you pay your taxes, you're paying your local taxes, meaning you're paying them to the township, and we collect on behalf of the county and the schools. When they're being reimbursed, it's not the township reimbursing, it's the state reimbursing. So we need to be made whole. We have budgets that need operation. But the Division of Taxation does have this program to give seniors relief, but it's coming from a different place. So they do, of course, they still need to pay their traditional taxes. But once those checks are issued by the Division of Taxation, they'd be made whole.
Great. Anything else from the Township Committee? All right, so I'm going to make a motion to open up to public comment limited to the 2026 revaluation. Have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Committeewoman Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right. Public comment is now open in case anybody has any additional questions for our assessor or the representative from ASI. Seeing or hearing nobody, can I ask for a motion to close public comment?
Motion. Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you both so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Have a great evening.
You
Thank
too.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, discussion regarding our flood damage prevention ordinance. We're joined by our floodplain manager, James DiMaria, who will walk us through this ordinance. Yeah, come on up, James. You can take a seat. Oh, you got a presentation?
Last slideshow, that.
Nice.
Do you want that? No.
Yeah, you know what, just to go over some just key points, not to bore everybody, but just the significant changes, that, you know, anybody that lives in a flood zone here be prepared for. There you go. All right, so, good afternoon, everybody. So, a few months ago, we gave this presentation regarding this model ordinance that all the municipalities within the state of New Jersey are required to adopt. We currently have a flood damage prevention ordinance in place, but it's minor in nature. So, through code change, the UCC, which is the Uniform Construction Code, changed the requirements for building limits. So right now, a lot of work could be done on your property without requiring a permit, and that goes from ripping out and, re-sheetrocking your walls, direct replacement of your bathrooms, direct replacement of your kitchens, re-roofing, new siding. These were all, significant, revenue generating items, for the building departments and oversight. So, when, the work's done, you get the added assessment. So the town's now missing out on a lot of that, and the insurance companies are also missing out on a lot of this. So that was the reason for creating this new model ordinance, because what this now does is if your house is located in the floodplain, you're not going to get an inspection, but you're going to be required to get a floodplain development permit. And the caveat of this floodplain development permit is more of a tracking tool. They don't want us physically inspecting the work. They want us to keep tabs on all these properties within the flood zone to see how much money is going into these houses. Because the more money that goes into a house, the more the insurance payout is when it floods. So we all know with all the natural disasters throughout, the United States, the insurance companies are constantly paying out, and they really can't afford to do it. Even now, when you do elevate your house, your insurance no longer goes down. It used to go down to a bare minimum. You're still paying full premium price. So, in the big picture, how does it affect, this township? Well, typically when it would flood, a lot of the, veterans in the flood areas, they had their routine down. They knew that they're going to cut out, the bottom 4 feet of their sheetrock, rip out the insulation, prevent mold buildup, and re-sheetrock, and at least have a habitable place to live and really not have to be relocated if, they could. Now, unfortunately, with this regulation, before you can do any work, you pretty much have to tell the town how much you're, spending, and we have to evaluate it to see if it's going to be a substantial improvement or a substantial damage, which will slow down the people getting back into their houses, which isn't good during times of emergency. So that's probably, one of the bigger issues with this, but it's totally unavoidable. The other part is there's a look-back period. So the towns had an option of either selecting a 10, 5, or 3-year look-back. The Township of Rochelle Park, after, discussion, decides to go with a 3-year look-back. And that 3-year look-back is 3 years cumulative, consistently throughout the life of the property after the adoption of this ordinance. So, like I said, we're going to be required to keep track of, the expenditures. So, a substantial improvement is when you exceed 50% of the improved value of your house, not the land, just the house. So, for math's sake, if your house is worth, in this market, a little higher, thank God, but if you had a poor market, it would be less. If the improved value of your house was $400,000 in a 3-year cycle, you couldn't exceed $200,000 in work. So if you just, if you're a developer, you come in, you buy a house in the flood zone, and you want to beautify this house, and you go spend $150,000 on a, new roof, new siding, redoing all the bathrooms, and then, that individual sells the house, that new owner only has $50,000 left before they go over to a substantial improvement. So if they move in and next week they get hit with a flood and have $55,000 in damage and exceed that $200,000 by $5,000, we have to notify the insurance company, not issue a permit, and then they have to elevate the house out of their pocket. And we're going, through just 2 minor elevations in town, and what's that cost them? $350,000. So just imagine the impact, and you can see, not everybody here that lives in a flood zone is even aware of this. So it's going to be a big surprise to a lot of people, and that's why we tried our best to, get it out there. We spoke at, the OEM conference in May, that was, unfortunately, not well attended. but there was somebody from another municipality going, oh my God, my township just adopted this, and they didn't tell us anyways. And, you know, that's the unfortunate side of this, but, you know, all of Bergen County was required to adopt this by July 2025. You know, we're a little, you know, past the deadline, but it's a very serious, you know, ordinance with, you know, major implications, and it's, you know, not an easy decision. There's no fighting it. You know, we have no choice to adopt it. If we do not adopt it, we get kicked out of the National Flood Insurance, the NFIP. And without the NFIP, you cannot get a federally backed mortgage, which means nobody would be able to buy a house in Rochelle Park with a mortgage except if you have cash. So they really, you know, there's no way around it, unfortunately. So, you know, that's the brief scenario and synopsis on this, and, you know, it'll be adopted tonight, and, you know, the enforcement of it will start soon.
Thank you, James. Any questions from the Township Committee? James, who determines that valuation? Is that FEMA, or is that the Township, including yourself, the floodplain manager?
What, the approved value?
Yeah.
So, typically, prior, our old ordinance would only allow based on what's on the tax roll. When they did this, they now give you multiple options where, you know, thankfully now you can use the market rate. So in times like today, that market rate is great for, you know, the person wanting to do work. But if you were to take yourself back to 2008, when the market crashed, that $400,000, you know, might be only $200,000, and $100,000 is, you know, pretty much roof siding and, you know, maybe a few other things in, you know, this climate. So, you know, but that's how it would be. It'd be a third-party appraiser.
Great, thank you.
That'd be the most generous.
Right. Thank you, James. So can I get a motion to open public comment limited to the flood damage prevention ordinance?
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Committeewoman Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chouinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Public comment is now open, limited to the flood damage prevention ordinance.
Thank you. The question's going to be for James. We will repeat on the fellow emergency manager. James, you mentioned the cumulative look back at 3 years.
Yes.
Could you just maybe explain to the folks what the thought process was instead of going back 5, which you had an option to, or 7 or 10, and why you chose 3 instead of making it a longer term?
Yeah, so if you went with a 10-year look back, it would be, you know, pretty damaging to the homeowner's pocket, because there's a pretty good chance within a 10-year period, you would definitely exceed that improved value. By going to 3, you know, although it's not in line with the insurance companies, you know, want, but it's a little easier. So, you know, God forbid, you know you need a new roof, but you're closed, you know, you could maybe push it forward a year and wait to do the roof to kind of, you know, work within that 3-year cycle. So that was our, you know, look at that, and that's what, you know, some other towns did. Some other towns didn't even look through it, and they just adopted it, but every town is affected totally differently when it comes to flood. You know, Saddlebrook, you know, maybe adopted it as is, and, you know, I think, where was that, I think Westwood, you know, they took the 10 years, so, you know, if it ever came down to enforcement, if they ever had, you know, a freak incident, you know, I don't know how much, you know, they fought, but, you know, so yeah, they could be hurting a lot of their residents with not doing their due diligence on this ordinance.
So in essence, what you did is you protected several homeowners, because we went through significant flooding in 2021, and then going back to 2018 even. You protected all of those residents by a 3-year instead of a longer look back.
Yeah, so thankfully, you know, that 3-year look back doesn't start until the time of adoption. We won't be looking 3 years back, so we'll be starting with a fresh 3-year bank. But, you know, the way the climate and the weather is, you know, look, you get hit twice in 1 year. You really never know. So it might be, you know, 3 years is better than 5 when it comes to, you know, the basics.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Real quick question.
Please.
Bob Anderson, Washington Avenue. The evaluation, is that considered just, like, for argument's sake, just it'll be evaluation now? 5 years from now, our properties go down in value, okay? What basis can you use? You use when it'll be 5 years from now? You know what I'm saying? Or would it still be based on what it is today?
Yeah, well, so, you know, that's the nice part of this. They do give you a little, you know, flex. So, you know, right now we're at, you know, 100% or 99%. So pretty much what people's properties assessed at right now is, you know, pretty much close to market rate without that, you know, factor ratio built in. But it's up to our discretion, and typically, you know, look, we're not going to want to, you know, really hurt somebody and, you know, cost them $400,000. So as long as on paper, you know, it shows that either they're complying with what's on the tax roll or the third-party appraisal, we're operating within the scope, you know, of the ordinance. You know, and that's the only leeway they kind of gave us in this, because prior, they wouldn't even allow anybody to get a third-party appraisal because they took the stance where, well, it's not fair, you know, he might be able to afford it, you know, third-party appraisal, but this poor person might not. So you have to go, you know, with what's on the
I was
tax.
just wondering how that was all.
Yeah, so we do have a little flex in that, so depending on, you know, what you've done, it might not even work.
And the 3 years was a very good idea.
Yeah.
Extremely under circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing or hearing no one. Can I ask for a motion to close public comment?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Apici?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Carpello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. James, while you're still nearby, let's talk commercial dumpster ordinance. I'll just provide a little context here. We've been getting complaints from businesses in town that are seeing dumpsters in the roadway near them. They've been sharing that garbage has been spilling, showing up on their business property. So I contacted Mr. DiMaria for some feedback, and he'll share it out right now.
All right, so just to inform, you know, the committee, so after receiving, you know, the complaint, the zoning ordinance was looked at, and back in 2011, an ordinance was adopted, 185-103M, which required enclosures around all dumpsters that are visible from street level. This section of, or this statute was locked into a section that would pertain to no different than if you were to buy a boat and you started, you know, storing it in your front yard. So it's automatic enforcement action, you know, 30 days to get it done. The only issue with putting this there, I guess, in 2011, and I don't know, you know, what tenancy review it was even ever looked at, but now you have a situation where the business would get cited if they have a visible dumpster from street level, which our code enforcement officer went out and did a survey, and that's about between 30 and 35 businesses. So all those businesses, after receiving a violation for this, would then have to submit an application to the land use board because it falls under site plan approval, because, you know, adding a dumpster enclosure could affect the circulation, or, you know, the vehicle circulation. It could remove parking, and this comes at a major expense, you know. So if the committee decides that, you know, they're in favor with keeping this part of the requirement here, you know, it's going to cost each business about $30,000, you know, and it's going to be, you know, rather, you know, burdensome on, you know, the land use board, and prevent, you know, if anybody wants to come and develop here, you know, to make an application. So I would, you know, I would strongly suggest that, you know, maybe, you know, they refer this section of the ordinance, you know, to the land use board and discuss the best way, you know, to handle it. And there's not even a guarantee that some of these businesses are even going to be able to comply with this, and, you know, we just have to, you know, grant additional variances. It might end up with the same result. So that's that section for the commercial end, and then at the same time, we started discussing the residential aspect because there was a complaint regarding a property in town. Currently the police department issues dumpster permits for when dumpsters are located on the street. There's no permit requirement when it's located on private property. So, as a recommendation, the board, the township committee should look in, a broader scope of also requiring some type of permitting for when a residential property gets a dumpster. The reason why, you don't have to charge a fortune for the permit, but it almost helps as a fact line. If you're getting a dumpster, why are you getting a dumpster? Are you doing work on your property? Are you moving out? And also sets a time frame of how long the permit can be issued for you don't have dumpsters sitting on properties for 3, 4, 5 months. Also, where could it be placed on private property? Do you want it in the driveway? Do you want it on, the grass? The reason why it might not be there is because of the overnight parking. Maybe, since, there was always overnight, parking, limitations, they never even wanted a dumpster in the driveway because where would those people park? So it would either be dumpster in the driveway or, dumpster on the street. So it's just one thing to look into. I know, the committee's, big on beautification of the town. This is something that, it's a little bit, more on the residents, to come in and get a permit, but, I think the good outweighs the bad, for that. And then you can also address, how long a dumpster could be on the street. I don't know, the police department, sets an amount of time, I'm not too sure. But, that's the dumpster law.
Thank you so much. I think that we should enforce the ordinances that we have. I hear what you're saying, but I think that we're basically in between two options. If we don't enforce, then we're going to have dumpsters in the roadway with really no consequence to these businesses. The other option is that they have to enclose them, and they'll have to appear before the land use board. And the land use board could obviously offer exceptions to businesses that make their case, but ultimately I think that we should enforce the ordinances that we have. I'd love to hear from the rest of the township committee.
I'd like to speak. Being a former member on the zoning board years ago and currently on the land use board, every application that came before us had to have an enclosure. Every new business, every existing business, they had to be enclosed. And whether it was just some fencing around it with some gates, but yes, on the property, having the ability to open the gates, swing them open, and get around traffic if there's traffic on the property coming in and out, and just for the, garbage for the roll-off dumpsters, the regular ones that are picked up weekly. Having those stipulations in their approval of how they get in and out and what times they can get in and out so it doesn't burden the traffic and burden the day. That's all part of the land use board now, and that was part of the zoning board before. And I think I wasn't aware that the ordinance existed that you just brought out. But I do know, but in agreement with the mayor, I think feel the same way. I think, the land use board certainly can grant for hardships, right? So if a business comes before us and they have a hardship, well, we're not talking about financial hardship, but if they have a hardship, they can't figure out a way to get that enclosure in, they've been existing, they certainly can get relief from us. It's not unreasonable, but to just circumvent the ordinance completely, and I think that I agree with the mayor on that.
Mayor,
That's
may
my
I
take.
ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yes, you had stated, James, it was about $30,000 to go before the land use. Just explain that.
Yeah, so, general number, so in order to appear, it's a business, so they would want to have to hire legal counsel to appear on their behalf. They would have to, post a township, escrow, application fee. Since it's a site plan, I assume some of the businesses might have been there, quite some time, so, they would have to hire an engineer to prepare, a site plan, and then depending on if it triggers more variances, it could turn into a major site plan. So, an engineer is going to charge, roughly around, 10 to 15,000, maybe even more, to prepare a site plan. I can only, speak to like the site plan, I have purchased, to do on a property, and that was 20,000. So, yeah, that expense, and then, they gotta come in front of the board, get the approval, and then they still have to pay to do the enclosure. On top of doing the enclosure, if they have to restructure the parking lot, repave, it could far exceed $30,000 easily in this,
So
it's just, I'm not saying circumvent the ordinance, but, maybe look to see where we could put it and, maybe slowly grandfather in or, change it,
So by example, the bagel shop and the ShopRite facility, I know they have a dumpster behind the building, it's just sitting there, no fencing, same with the bank, same with the hair salon. Would the property owner have to pay for that, or that's the individual business's responsibility?
I guess it all depends how their lease is written.
Okay.
If you've got a triple net lease, right, you're fully responsible. But, this specific is only when it's visible from street level. So if it's in the back of the building, technically it doesn't have to be enclosed. Well, like I said, we already did the survey just to see the financial impact.
The back of that building you can see from Passaic Street, that's why I brought that one up.
Yeah, but there's definitely 33 businesses that would most likely receive a zoning violation.
Okay.
So just, it's, just for everyone's, well aware and,
Then maybe what we should do is have further this discussion with the land use board.
I would strongly recommend and see if there's a better, maybe speak to.
Come up with
the attorney, see if there's.
Come up with a reasonable
better way
solution.
to do this, maybe limit the expense, maybe not require, them to go and get a full site plan done.
Right.
Maybe.
Let me just say, the planning board, although, look, if it's going to trigger variances and realignment of the parking, there's no way to get around it. But if it doesn't, the planning board has the right to waive formal site plan requirements and even eliminate it, and just, they would come in.
Look at the issue.
Was that?
Just to focus on the issue.
Right, and what would typically happen in that case is they come in with their existing survey, and they show where the dumpster's going to be located, and then identify to the board, how, its location, basically. And again, as long as it doesn't trigger having to redo the parking lot and all those other issues, the planning board it would be appropriate for them to waive a formal site plan. But more than likely, if you required all the other work that was just mentioned, you would need a site plan for that. If you had to, reconfigure your parking and so, not if you had to, even to realign or reline your parking, that wouldn't require a site plan either.
Right.
And if they have XX spaces, let's say the parking requirement is 40 spaces, now they're going to go to 39, but that still complies with the ordinance, you wouldn't need a formal site plan for that either, because they're still exceeding the parking requirement. So you have this, the board has discretion.
Right.
But just put into consideration that these 33 properties, the reason why the dumpsters in front of the building is because they're unique lots where they're limited on space. That's the only issue, but, totally, agree with, Mr. Sedino, waiving, that maybe additional, burden of having to get an actual site plan, we got, aerial imagery, it's all what the board professionals are going to be comfortable, with doing, and, they're still going to have to do a resolution, so you're still putting, this into, the record. It's not like, okay, you can put it there, it's going to stay, with it, and then a few years from now, you're like, oh, why did this get put there short? So, but, obviously, I think, there needs to be some type of discussion prior to really saying, this is how we're going to, do. But that's just my personal opinion.
So also on the residential end, from a police perspective and safety, putting a 30-yard or a 40-yard container on the street, it's like the one on El Dorado, I think we were talking about, visibility. I mean, that's a pretty dangerous situation. The line of visibility around a dumpster like that, and you can't see.
So I believe it's state statute,
Ride a
right?
bike over on the other side of that, come out. It's not like coming out behind a parked car.
And unfortunately, state statute only speaks to reflective devices,
Right.
warning motorists of the vehicle, not so much if you can see around it. So yeah, I think putting a time frame on it does make sense, and, you know,
Maybe a size requirement? right?
sometimes people don't have enough front lawn, like these houses, they're being raised, so they need to be able to access the front where the equipment's going to, you know, jack up the house. But I know we had one on Parkway recently, and they put it on the lawn, and I received complaints about it being on the lawn, that it was unsightly, but it's, you know, there's a balance somewhere.
To talk to the point of during a construction site like that too. In the early phases of a construction site like that where you're lifting a home, right? You're doing demolition in the beginning. You bring a 20-yard dumpster in, not a 40-yard dumpster in. You bring it in, you load it up, you pull it out of there. You don't leave it, you know, I know guys like to leave a 40-yard dumpster because they don't want to pay an extra $400 or $300 to drop another dumpster and have it carted out. But in a case like that, you know, it's put it on the street or pay $300, get it out, get another one back when you need it. You know, I mean, we gotta be reasonable to the residents and people driving up and down the block and the safety of the people that are here. Also for the DPW to be able to plow properly and get around, and, you know, I think we gotta be reasonable in both aspects.
Well, that's why, you know, the street dumpster permit, you know, would have to go through, you know, the police department, the DPW, you know, you don't know if road work's planned or, you know, significant snowfall, so, you know, just a little more oversight, you know, on that, and then there'll be oversight on the residential side in that timeframe, you know? Right now, you have nothing, so if you put a, you know, a time limit, a 10-day time limit on that dumpster, you know, on that residential property, look, the contractor is gonna be forced to
Move quicker.
You know,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah,
Or, you
and-
know, bring a dump trailer.
And if I may, Mayor, through the chair?
Go ahead.
And again, you know, Mr. DiMaria mentioned the overnight parking, and for those of us that have, you know, ventured into other towns that allow on-street and overnight parking, to see the mess left behind after this snowstorm, and I was speaking with the borough administrator in Lodi today, saying it's just a war zone. So, yeah, you know, to force those dumpsters into the driveway and putting the cars doesn't accomplish anything in this time of year, so, you know, we need to just look at it all and, you know, talk about the on-street dumpster, so, thank you, James.
Definitely. Committeewoman,
Yes, so James, you're just talking about, when we're talking about the dumpsters and the ones that are pretty much permanent for the businesses, correct?
Okay.
Not the ones that are somebody.
The commercial, yes.
Right, so that's what you're talking about, it has to have the enclosure on them in that aspect. But if a dumpster is in a driveway and it's overburdened with too much material, that's falling on the property of others.
That's a property, you're speaking about I'm sorry.
Right.
because
So you have
commercial,
commercial
residential.
and you have residential.
Yeah,
right?
so residential, you know, twofold, so, you know, if it's overflowing with construction debris, obviously, you know, it's a property maintenance, you know, issue, and, you know, a violation, you know, would be, you know, issued for that. We do have those enforcement, you know, capabilities, you know, we could also say at night, it's, you know, required to be covered to prevent, you know, the wind from.
So that could be
you know,
added to.
blowing
That's
debris.
actually in our current ordinance, right? It says nothing
Right.
should be able to spill, leak from any dumpster
Yeah, I
or
think
trash container, so.
It's a general terminology.
It's broad.
for Stormwater management.
Right,
just to
correct.
protect, you know, the inlets and all that stuff. But, you know, this would be, you know, pretty much specific to Roselle Park, like, you know, any other town, you know, might possibly do it as, you know, how you want to control, you know, the dumpsters on your residential residential properties, and, you know, even pots. You know, a lot of people call, oh, can I put a pot on my property? You know, what we do right now, you know, we kind of give them like a temporary zoning permit, which, you know, it's just being created to make sure that pod doesn't sit there for a year. You know, so, you know, we just say, hey, look, yeah, you can have your pod, you're moving in, you know, 30 days. But it would be nice just to have something, because if I was ever challenged on it, I wouldn't be able to, you know, win that battle.
So, Mayor, would you think that at this point we should consult maybe other professionals and other boards to get their input and maybe have the attorney look over to see about the resolution or ordinance change?
yeah, no, I think that this definitely calls for an ordinance that creates a permit process and time frame for dumpsters on residential properties. So let's make that a goal
On
for,
residential and commercial, right?
well, yes, but technically, the commercial ordinance, we basically have the means to be able to begin enforcing that now unless we want to make an adjustment.
Unless you want to put them together, right? Under dumpster? I don't know. How does
Yeah,
that
well,
work? James?
you know, the residential ones, you typically, you know, you would call it like a roll-off permit, because it's a roll-off dumpster that comes. The ones on commercial properties are, you know, smaller ones that are, you know, picked up by a private carting company. where they have to wheel it out to the street, hook up, dump it, and then, the property manager is, responsible for taking that back up to the physical enclosure, or wherever its resting place is, so.
So,
Two separate
two
things,
separate
but,
issues.
you might as well just loop it all into, one section just for it's easily, enforceable and what
All
you're
right.
saying.
Thank you. So let's revisit this for discussion in February with an ordinance hopefully ready by then as well. Thank you so much, Mr. DiMaria. That can come up later. All right, up next, Police Department personnel. The Police Department is here. Thank you guys so much for being here. At the December 11th public meeting, the Police Department did a presentation where they requested that a lieutenant position subject to an upcoming retirement be filled. That position was designated also as the Special Resource Officer at our local school, Midland School. And in response, a SLEO 3 has been assigned to the school and has been serving that role since the beginning of the year. And I believe it's appropriate to allow some more time to evaluate how the department operates under the current arrangement before revisiting the idea of a promotion following further review by the Township Committee. So, are there any comments from members of the Township Committee regarding this?
Yes, there is an ordinance that we have that has a committee under the state statute, 40, so that committee can discuss this and it's up to you, of course, to decide. But on that committee are certain people that have in the ordinance. Would have to change the ordinance or not, because it doesn't get specific of exactly.
The existing ordinance, which is required actually to have what is called the appropriate authority, which primary focus is to provide some oversight with respect to ensuring that all the regulations are being followed in the police department. But any other authority that is given to the appropriate authority has to be given to it by the Township Committee, either by ordinance or if it's just a single instance, by resolution. If it's a single instance. So, for example, if the Township Committee wished for, again, and I'm referring to it as the appropriate authority because that's how the statute refers to it. So if the Township Committee wishes for the appropriate authority to review whether a promotion should be made in the police department, you have the authority to, yes, that's the appropriate authority. They can only make a recommendation, which would then come back to the Township Committee for a final decision.
So, John, who is the appropriate authority?
Your ordinance, well, let me start with the statute allows you to name one person from the governing body, to name multiple people from the governing body, to name the administrator, to include the administrator, to name the police chief. Your ordinance names 3 individuals, the mayor, committee person who's I believe the police liaison, and the borough administrator and police chief. However, in this case, since one individual has both the police chief and administrative title, there's the appearance, not that to say that there is a conflict, there's the appearance of a conflict for him to participate in making that determination. There would not be a conflict for him if a determination was made to do so, to participate in determining who should receive that promotion. But in terms of the decision whether a promotion is warranted, that he would be precluded from that, so it would only be 2 members based upon your ordinance.
So, just to clarify, since the administrative police chief can't be a part of this committee, could the captain?
No.
Any other?
The statute refers to a manager, which you don't have. Some forms of government have what they call a manager, which is similar to the role of an administrator, or an administrator or executive officer, which would be, in this case, in your form of government, the administrator. So again, because of that conflict, that excludes him. If you added a 3rd member from your township committee, which you could do,
That would be a quorum.
that would be a quorum, which would require you to advertise and have some of that discussion in public, some may be able to be held in executive session, but you'd have to go through the same process you do as a regular meeting.
So the only people that could be on this committee are myself and Committeewoman Teresa Jetterfellow.
Correct.
All right. So,
I have a question, if I may.
yeah, please.
So would an ordinance have to be changed, would the ordinance have to be changed to do any specific, the way you just explained it, does it have to be changed to?
Only if you want to make that a permanent authority. Otherwise, if you don't want to make it permanent, this township committee would have to vote to authorize the appropriate committee to review and make a recommendation with respect to whether a promotion should be made in the police department.
Okay.
But we can't do it as a resolution.
No, you can't.
We can, yeah.
We could
We
fire
can do it
me
as a resolution.
For the two of us to form a committee to discuss this.
as administrator.
I'm sorry?
I said you could terminate my administrator's role, and I have no problem with that. If that's what it takes.
All right. Great. Any other responses, questions, comments?
No.
All right. Thank you so much. So, Teresa, we can visit this at a later date. Let's move on to the 2025 Open Space Grants. Dean, would you like to speak about this?
Where we at, Mayor? I'm sorry? Open Space Grant? Open Space Grant. So we've been
Tell us the
awarded.
good news.
Yes, the good news is we've been awarded $200,000, probably one of the highest grant amounts out there for all of the municipalities of Bergen County that applied. The intent was to use it towards improvements at Carlock Field, namely some ADA compliant playground equipment, resurfacing of the playground surface, which is horrific down there. Matt, you got the word twice tonight. Horrific. Possibly a scoreboard and other improvements to the park area. So I'm excited about that, and we will go from there. Yep. Yes, fencing as well. There's, we put it, and basically when you write these grants, you're coming up with a broad idea. I know Mayor Crivello and I walked the facility with Colliers Engineering a while ago when, coming up with some ideas and things to do. So looking forward to, once the grant contract is approved, we will go forward and we just need to, seek funding on our end to do this project. But again, $200,000 is definitely among the highest given to any municipality in Bergen County.
Awesome. That's great news. Can you reiterate to the public, because it was a lot of noise, so what exactly is included?
So we're looking to do some ADA compliant playground equipment, replace the playground surface, which has been a nightmare down at Carlock, and that alone is close to $200,000, as well as some fencing, electronic scoreboard, some other, minor upgrades to the park. And again, and that can change. The scope of work can change within the framework that we've laid out.
Great, thank you. Yes, take it away.
So,
I'll come to you next.
so the playground that we have there now in Matthews Field, at this time, it's not ADA compliant.
Are you referring to Carlock?
I'm sorry, Carl, sorry. That's not ADA compliant at this time, that we're going to look to get that moved into the ADA compliance, is that what we're understanding?
That was one of the goals of it, yeah, and I think, by removing of the curbing, we should be able to do that, and the replacement of the surface.
What curve?
There's curbing around the playground subsurface right
In
now.
Carl?
Correct.
Oh, on the outside of it?
Correct.
Right, okay, all right, thank you.
Go ahead, Jen.
One of the things I'm curious about, when we're redoing these parks, can we put in some sort of equipment for people with disabilities?
And that was one of my goals, was to actually get playground equipment that's ADA compliant.
Swings and
Correct,
or-
correct.
okay.
Yep, that was one of my goals with this project and within this.
And just really quick, I know initially when those sprinklers were put in Carlock,
I actually have good news on those.
the button was put in the opposite direction. Should be put in the inside?
It wasn't, not necessarily they were put in wrong. The manufacturer took back their mistring heads, and just last week I got information from them that they're not just repairing them, they actually built new ones to go, and they'll be shipping them up in the springtime and coming up from Florida. They're actually doing a lot of work in some tropical islands right now, but they will come up themselves and install it to make sure that it's working. So yeah, it is good news. And we still haven't paid them for it, so they're not getting paid until I see them working.
Great news. Anyone else? All right, let's move right on to welcome signage. So as we've talked a lot about, beautification is a priority of this administration. That's why we've established a Shade Tree Commission, an Environmental Commission. We've adopted Sustainable New Jersey. We've advanced Complete and Green Streets. But another great high visibility strategy would be welcome signage. Dean, can you provide an update on potential locations, funding opportunities, and next steps for what that looks like here in Rochelle Park?
Yes, Mayor, I've taken a playbook out of some other administrators in Bergen County that have done this type of work for their town committees or councils. Unfortunately, I reached out to his sign company. He promised me I'd have a mock-up and a proposal today, but it's not here. However, we have our letter ready to go that we can send out to local businesses. Our goal is we have about 6 to 8 different locations. Some of the streets that you come in off of 17. Obviously, the one on East Passaic Street could use a nice upgrade. The Ramada Hotel one is welcome signs currently being worked on by the Scouts. Obviously, the weather has kind of dampened that effort, but I look forward to their product or their finished product. But these welcome signs would be a little bit smaller. Anywhere but about $2,500 to $3,000, depending on the size and the amount of, the location. And we can, again, ask local businesses, maybe some of our professionals here in the town that work for the town would want to, get their name out there. It worked very well, like I said, in several other Bergen County municipalities. Thank you to Michaela for helping me draw up a mock-up of the sign, and thank you to Gina for her efforts on getting me the letter. And, as soon as I get these mock-ups from this one sign company, I'm going to seek other quotes as well, and I'll get that over to this committee to look at.
Are these the same signs that we have at the gas stations?
No, that's horrific. Again, that word horrific. That's the third one today. That's, no. So they'll be a little bit smaller. And because again, we're going to look to put them at locations kind of like on High Street at Essex, right? So, and give the opportunity again as a fundraiser and for the business to get their name out or the professional. East Passaic, I think we could do a larger one and a nicer one. I'm going to seek DOT approval. Again, 17 is going to expand, but at least if we get something, maybe even on that island close to the bridge as you're coming into town. But it'll be a little bit smaller. That one was designated by the zoning board, I believe, back when. That was spec'd out. Yeah, it is what it is. But these would be a little bit nicer. And again, I will absolutely share with this committee the suggested products and the mock-ups from the different sign companies as they come through. And the ones that I'm very familiar with are very nice. And, Elmwood Park has similar ones as well if you've ever gone in. So we're going to go with metal for several reasons. Wood posts, I know Dave's like, don't give me wood posts because they rot. And then the metal will last longer. So there'll just be decals on metal, but they will look sharp, I can guarantee it.
Great, thank you. And I think that it would be great to bring in our Community Outreach Committee, which Diane Verhassel is the chair of. It'd be great to get their support and reaching out to businesses as well. Getting volunteers involved, I think, would be fantastic for this initiative.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So are you looking for businesses to donate?
Yeah, they could actually sponsor the sign. So there would be a standard "Welcome to Rochelle Park" sign,
Right.
and then on the bottom would be a placard that says "Donated by Trawinsky Construction."
Right, okay. Well, Trawinsky, but,
Yeah.
no pressure. But, there you go, Matt. Something like that would then be permanent on that.
Correct.
Okay, so this would be on a metal sign, which has a thin post that I saw a picture of.
Correct.
And it would go in order? I mean, how would you actually?
Well, we give, you put it out there, we'll have a form where they can pick the location and, whoever first come, first serve, and let's hope we have that problem.
Well, that would be good, right?
Yes.
We can get some donations, and then maybe whatever we get, we can get maybe a larger sign or whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along to correspondence. Gina.
Mayor, we have one piece of correspondence that I would like to read into the record. Can everybody hear me? Speak very softly. Okay, so this is from Mr. Lee, and he sent this over, high praises for our court administrator. Quote, "Awesome, thank you so much for your help. Thank you for being so patient and keeping me up to date. I couldn't have asked for any better. The court is lucky to have you." And again, this was just said by somebody who had a very positive interaction with our court. So
That's wonderful.
kudos to them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, adoption of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the following meetings collectively? Executive session December 17, 2025. The sign die meeting January 3rd, 2026. Reorg January 3rd, 2026. Special meeting January 14th, 2026. And executive session January 14th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Fiji?
Yes.
Committeewoman George Carvello?
Yes, but I need to recuse myself from this special meeting on January 14th and the closed session on 14th, as I was away.
Okay. Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right. Approval of the agenda. So before we approve the agenda, can I have a motion to add Resolution 26-072, authorization of trial extension of operating hours for Ascend New Jersey LLC and the execution of a host community agreement, as well as Resolution 26-073, award of contract to EvoGov for development and hosting of new township websites. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Opichi?
Yes.
Committeewoman George Carvello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Thank you so much. Now, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Opichi?
Yes.
Committeewoman George Carvello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right. Committee reports. Administrator, would you like to start?
Sure, I have one quick item, Mayor, and then I'll go through it as questions may arise throughout the rest of the meeting. I did receive an email from Team RP, Mr. Michael Warren, requesting that this Township Committee formally consider providing Team RP with money from the Clean Communities Grant for any cleaning event that they do in 2025. I did follow up with Lisa Shealy, our recycling coordinator. She absolutely confirmed that we can give up to $500 per event for specific groups, Team RP being one of them, under that grant. So if any, scouting program, youth sports program wants to do some community cleaning as well as Team RP, we can absolutely write them a $500 check out of the Clean Communities Grant. So I just wanted to bring that to this committee for further discussion to make sure you're good with, that going forward.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Definitely.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you. Resolution for
We
that?
have to, for that grant for the used?
We need to accept the grant.
That we have the grant, the funds are there. It's basically
Purpose to provide to groups that have done community cleanups.
Oh,
Just
well, yeah, you need to authorize it, sure. You need a motion and a second.
So I think once they provide us with an event date, we would, do a resolution at that point authorizing them to do a cleanup on behalf of the Township of Rochelle Park and authorizing that at 500 once they're upon completion. I don't think we need anything right now, right, John? Correct.
All right. Well, once we receive
Yeah,
that information.
and the program guidelines for Clean Communities Grant actually require them to do, it has to be a cleanup event, it can't be called anything but a cleanup event, and they have to ask each time before they go ahead and do it, and to receive that remuneration.
All right. Committeeman Smith, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. 3 things. America 250, I brought it up last meeting. Jen, you're going to help me, right? Thanks.
I'm all over it with you.
Awesome. Susan, I'm looking at you. I spoke to Chip Leonard. He is, Leonard, my bad. He is also interested in, getting involved in this. I plan on having an initial meeting in the middle of February. So as soon as all those volunteer forms come in, I will be reaching out via email and setting up an initial meeting and then hearing ideas. So I'm really looking forward to that. Rec. I was at Rec, first meeting of the year was January 20th. We have our chair, Mark Wrigley, who's going to stay with Rec as the chair. He's going to be continuing, thank God, for 2026. And we have a new vice chair, Rob Frace, who's really fantastic. I think really good shape that Rec will be in for this year. So that's really exciting. Sign-ups for baseball. It ends March 15th. Please don't wait till the last minute, because then, you You wait till the last minute, you try to get a count of how many people are gonna join, and then, you know, we don't know if you're gonna be able to fill spots, and the next thing it's a pain. I can't curse, right? It's a pain in the neck. So please, you know, sign up before March 15th. Access for all. We had our first meeting the 21st. Walter Houghton's gonna stay on as the chair. We have 2 co-vice chairs. Pete's gonna stay on, Pete Donatello, along with Debbie Kadire, who will be co-vice chairs, and Caroline Kadire will be the secretary. Again, volunteers, please. We need volunteers. It's easy to post on social media about stuff that you can complain about. Please volunteer. 5 to 10 hours a year is not a lot to volunteer for your community. 5 to 10 hours, for the year is not a lot. So come on, step it up. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. Teresa?
Okay, thank you. So the December monthly police report is that there was 1,227 calls for service, 175 motor vehicle stops, 11 arrests, 17 criminal charges, 411 summonses issued. The police department year-end numbers. So what we have here is in the 2025, there were high numbers listed in the year-end report. Second highest in Rochelle Park history that I have here. And there were, I'm going to list these off quick, motor vehicle, there was 587, total police department calls for service, 117,480, it's written correctly, sorry, 7,119 of total summonses. Motor vehicle stops were 3,234, emergency calls were 987. Community outreach was 132, fire department response 243, and total arrests were 256. 911 calls, year-end businesses was 27, residential 40. VoIP is 484, and the wireless was 2,050. So that's with the police department. I also have here the library. We have the president of the library committee is Diane Verhassel, and the vice president is Chris Sheridan. Also, there's a new member who was sworn in as Leslie Fernandez. Congratulations to all. The next meeting is February 9th at 6:30 p.m. So the seniors, last meeting was the 22nd last week, and they played bingo, had a great time from what I could see. One of the seniors, which I have right here, one of our resident seniors, just became a publisher. And her name is Anita Novo. She wrote this book, and it's called Where is Adeline? And this book could be purchased at Barnes & Noble that I saw so far. It's basically about triplets, and one of them disappears on a family vacation. It's pretty interesting. She's 90 years old. She wrote this book at 90 years old. So,
It's also on Amazon, apparently.
Okay, great. But she's 90 years old, and I don't know if you want to recognize her for this accomplishment. She is on Elder Street, and this is terrific. I don't know if you can see it from here, but I did get a little bit of a glimpse of it, and it looks really interesting. It looks like a quick read, too. So this is Anita Novo. That's her name, and if you want to reach out to her or something.
Absolutely. That would be
think
great.
that would be
We'll
a great
absolutely recognize her and her hard work at a later meeting,
Okay,
hopefully in
and then
February.
we already got the court where with the nice correspondence there, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Jen?
I'm sorry, really quick, I forgot to mention, the next rec meeting will be February 3rd at Houghton Hall, and the next Access for All meeting will be the 18th. I apologize.
Thanks, John. Jen?
Sure. Good evening. The fire department responded to 39 calls in the month of December. In total for the year of 2025, 340 calls in total. OEM has been actively monitoring weather conditions throughout the month. In advance of the recent snowstorm, several notifications were sent out through OEM emergency contact list to ensure residents were informed and prepared. OEM continues to closely monitor weather conditions, including the potential impacts for this weekend's forecast. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Dave Brown and the Department of Public Works for their tireless efforts for this weekend's storm. DPW worked around the clock to ensure the safety and accessibility of our streets and public areas, and their dedication does not go unnoticed. I'd also like to thank our fire department for remaining on standby, as well as our police department, OEM, and CERT teams, who are all ready and available should assistance have been needed. This coordinated effort truly reflects the strength of our emergency response and the commitment we have to keeping our community safe. Residents are reminded that they can sign up for emergency and non-emergency alerts by texting the Rochelle Park Alert 67283. Is that correct? 67283. Or by visiting the Rochelle Park Police Department and the Township websites. Residents are also encouraged to follow the Rochelle Park CERT Facebook page for reliable, timely safety updates and important information. Shelter reminders for long-duration power outages related to snowstorms and extreme cold. The Senior Center is designated shelter for non-flood evacuations. Midland Schools also designated shelter for all flooding evacuations. All shelters are staffed and operated by CERT members trained by the American Cross Shelter Management. For the Boy Scouts, they will be hosting their annual spaghetti dinner and tricky tray on March 21st at the American Legion. The seating times will be 2 to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., and there will be additional details shared as the event approaches. Lastly, the parade committee met last night. Their planning officially has gone underway for the Memorial Day Parade. It's always encouraging to see residents that are coming together to honor those who are served, and I look forward to working with the community as the plans continue to develop. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
Hi, everybody. First off, to piggyback on what you said about the DPW, to recognize the DPW for their tireless efforts on the streets, and I hear that plow scouring down the middle of the night when I'm sleeping. I can hear them. They're out there all the time. Not only that, for those of you who don't know, the school had an issue, an equipment issue, and they reached out to myself and the mayor and Dave and DPW jumped on board, and we're over there clearing the school property so they could have their opening. So hats off to them for jumping in and doing what they had to do. I do have a question, though, about the vertically challenged stop sign on the corner. Was that hit with the plow, that one, or was it?
No, it was a motor vehicle crash.
Motor vehicle crash? Okay.
We're seeking insurance, refund.
The stop sign was about, it's just, you know, well, whatever, okay. That answers that question. Thank you. For those of you who don't know, again, back on the part of the grant for the fields, we are also, if you haven't noticed, the last resolution that's on this agenda covers an estimate for a contract for the upgrades to Matthews Field House. And it's pretty extensive. It's going to have a full makeover from top to bottom, which reminds me that we're going to need recreation. We're going to need some support on emptying the facility for the trophies and the contents and the cabinets. Everything needs to be emptied out of that facility because it will be completely redone. What's that?
Where are they going to put all that stuff?
That is the question. Where can we store that? What they have in there, I don't know. I don't know. Carla?
I mean, if you put it at home and you rent it out, then you know it.
Okay. As far as a start date for that, now that we're passing the resolution, I believe the contractors will jump on that in the month of February, pushing for having that place ready and reloaded with whatever they have to take out of there back in before opening day. So looking forward to that. That's about all I have. Go ahead, Teresa.
Dean, the garage owned by DPW, I know part of it is accessible. Is it possible that you can store some stuff in that?
I'd have to look. I haven't seen what's in there in a long time, but
No,
I'll take a look with Dave saying no. Figure stuff out.
I'm just asking because okay. It's trophies and stuff. right?
Great.
Yeah, trophies.
It's
Couple
trophies.
Pictures from old.
Yeah.
We've got refrigerators.
There's a lot of trophies.
There's a refrigerator,
There's a lot of
refrigerators,
trophies.
freezers.
It's pretty significant.
So we'll have to find
Cabinets, you
a
got content in cabinets, you got appliances, you got...
temporary location for that.
Maybe we'll get a pod and help us update our ordinance. We'll look at pod, we'll do something, we'll figure it out.
Thank you so much. I just want to start by echoing what's already been said. I want to thank all the first responders, as well as Dave and the DPW team for their outstanding work during the recent storm. The residents really appreciated it, and we heard a lot of positive comments from them. I also want to follow up on an item from our last meeting. On January 8th, the Rochelle Park Environmental Commission hosted Dave Refkin, Chair of Green Ridgewood, for an informational presentation on regional flooding impacts along the Saddle River. So following that presentation, there was a lot of residents here that had strong interest in hearing directly from Mr. Refkin right here. So in response, Mr. Refkin will be joining us at the February 18th Township Committee meeting to present the information to this community. I just want to say it was an honor to swear in Rochelle Park Board of Education Vice President Elaine Raynon and Board Member Dominic Pizzuto. We thank them and the entire board for their continued service to the Rochelle Park community. And echoing what Matt said, I want to thank the interim superintendent, Gian Castro. During the recent winter storm, he reached out regarding school closures, delayed openings, plowing concerns, and overall coordination support. So his communication collaboration was really appreciated. And that's all from me. Gina.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to quickly remind everyone that the deadline to register your pets is February 17th. Late fees will be assessed after this date. Thank you to everybody who has already come in to register your pets. It is very important. Taxes are due February 1st, 2026. Grace period ends February 10th, so please come in and pay your taxes. That's all.
Thank you, Gina. John.
Yes, just updates on the Telfer litigation that is taking place. First, with respect to the building violations centered around the use of the residential parking spaces for commercial purposes, which is the rental of those spaces to Mazda for the storage of vehicles. That has, the venue has been changed to the municipal court in Saddlebrook, and a conference is going to be held by that judge in the end of February. I believe that may be February 24th. And the purpose of that hearing is to determine whether the fines that have been levied by our building department can be enforced by the municipal court judge. And we're confident that there is a violation and that fines will be levied with respect to the unauthorized use of that property for the rental of spaces to a commercial entity. Not only is that the usage of that parking facility for the rental in violation of the redevelopment agreement, but it's contrary to our zoning ordinance, which does not permit the use of that property for that purpose without securing a variance. A variance was never obtained, nor was approval ever given by the governing body to do so. Next, we have the litigation in which the municipality filed against the developer for failing to comply with the redevelopment agreement that was negotiated and entered into between the developer and the municipality a few years ago, which led to the development of the site across the street. The issues what we contend are breaches of that agreement are, one, they never developed a retail space, which they were supposed to do within a 2-year time period. As everyone knows, it's still an empty piece of property, and they did not wish to develop it for retail space. That led them to try to put a daycare center in, which was denied by the land use board because it was contrary to the redevelopment agreement, and the redevelopment agreement required them, if they wished to change the redevelopment plan, they needed to get the approval of the governing body, which they never obtained. Then there's also the fact that the redevelopment agreement required them to maintain the site, as everyone, I guess, in the community sees. There's a pile of dirt that has never been removed. And the third part of the breach is they're failing to post the necessary escrows in the account, which they were required to do in accordance with the redevelopment agreement. And a fourth breach is, again, the rental of the property to a dealership for a commercial purpose, which is the storage of vehicles. As a result of that lawsuit, the developer then filed a lawsuit against the municipality, several committee members, and private citizens. And the basis of their lawsuit, if I can just put it in a very concise manner, is that the borough has no right to enforce the agreement that they agreed to. That the borough was wrong for not allowing a daycare center, even though that matter, Judge Padavano issued a decision saying that the municipality was correct. Well, when I say correct, the land use board, or at that time the Board of Adjustment, which denied the application, their decision was correct based upon the redevelopment plan, that a daycare center was not permitted, that they were required to use that space or develop that space for retail use. So that part of their complaint essentially has already been addressed by Judge Padavano's decision. They also contend that they should not be subject to fines by the building department for using the property for commercial space versus the residential use, which is what it was supposed to be used for. And they're not required to post the escrow that is, again, required by the redevelopment agreement. They're also challenging private citizens who spoke at the hearings regarding their redevelopment plan or their request for a daycare center, saying that essentially they had no right to object to their plan. So needless to say, we feel very strongly that their complaint does not have merit, that the actions taken by the municipality are clearly enforceable, and that we will be successful. Now, because they filed that lawsuit, we have insurance coverage for those type of claims. It has been turned over to our insurance carrier. They are in the process of assigning at least one attorney, possibly more than one attorney, if they feel there's conflicts between the different parties. And once that attorney is retained, he will get in touch with the various parties in the lawsuit and discuss the case with them.
Thank you so much, John. All right. Any questions, comments? Great. Is there any new business? Wonderful. So can I ask for a motion to open up to public comments?
Make a motion.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman George Carvello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right, we're open to public.
Take a word, I just want to make an announcement real quick.
Sure.
So I just wanted to touch on our retiring officer. I'm going to address the Township Committee, Mr. Mayor, and the town. So I would like to take this time to recognize one of the longest-standing public servants in Rochelle Park history, Lieutenant Kenny Stapleton. Kenny began his police career in 1999, 26 years ago, as a Rochelle Park Emergency Police Dispatcher. After 3 years in the Communications Department, he was hired by the Bloomfield Police Department in 2002. In 2003, he returned to his hometown roots and was hired by the Rochelle Park Police as a police officer. The lieutenant's service history dates far before his 2003 police hiring. Kenny volunteered with the Rochelle Park Fire Department and EMS squad as a teenager, beginning in 1996. Kenny, who's heralded for his technological expertise, has served many roles within the patrol division. Lieutenant Stapleton was assigned to the Cyber Crimes Task Force in 2007, was promoted to patrol sergeant in 2015 and lieutenant in 2023. He most recently served as the Midland School Resource Officer for 2 years, developing lasting relationships with the youth of our community. During his career, he served as an instructor in firearms, use of force, active shooter response, and de-escalation techniques. He currently serves as a deputy coordinator for the Rochelle Park Office of Emergency Management. And on this Friday, January 30th at 2 p.m., Kenny will officially walk out from the RPPD. He'll be honored with a retirement walkout ceremony, which we encourage all to attend. The ceremony will recognize over 30 years of service to the Township of Rochelle Park, a place where Kenny grew up, volunteered, worked, and ultimately retired from. In true public service fashion, he won't be leaving us too far. He will still stay on as a Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator, so you won't have to go far to see him. So we welcome everybody to come on Friday. On front steps of headquarters, we will have bagpipers and a lot of pomp and circumstance, so please attend. And then just with that being said, Mayor, committee, we welcome dialogue, replacing Penny. We were hoping to have that tonight, but whenever the appropriate authority is determined and we're going to have those communications, we look forward to it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, that was for them. Scott Crowell, 189 West Older Street. Real quick, just for the attorney. I know you had stated because of the conflict with the chief and also being a business administrator. Is there an addendum or amendment to that statute that you stated in order for, I mean, if the chief isn't around, Captain DePret is the executive officer. He's the second guy in charge. Would he be able to fulfill that role on the committee that you were talking about?
No, the statute specifically doesn't say that you can have an alternate. It just says, because you can only have one person if you want. So in other words, it's not that you're required to have multiple people. So the position would be, well, if you only have 2 people eligible, only have 2 people. If you only have one person eligible, only have one. And again, the statute is specific as to the title. And in fact, they give the examples, manager, administrator. And the captain just doesn't fall under those categories.
But did you say something about the executive officer? Because
That's the examples they give as the executive officer, a manager, and an administrator.
Okay.
They don't say any officer in the police department above the rank of sergeant, let's say.
Okay, I understand that, but as far as him being second in command when the chief's not around, he is the executive officer.
Yeah, but that's not his title.
Okay.
He's in an acting capacity.
Okay. No, I just figured I'd ask. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. The other thing I have, I'm going to put my hat on for president of the Rochelle Park Board of Education. Again, we would like to publicly thank Dave Brown. Yeah, I know. He said, don't do that. And Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and the rest of the council people, thank you so much for letting him do what he did, and you saved the school and the taxpayers a ton of money by letting us have this service. And as far as shared services go, you know, and the same thing with the administrator. Thank you so much for all your help. We couldn't have done it without you guys. So we just want to let you know from our hearts to yours, thank you so much. It really, you bailed us out on a time that we needed bailing out. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, Teresa.
To Mr. Crowell, Scott's point, with the chief, because of the conflict, can we not introduce the doctrine of necessity in that case?
No, because again, you're not required to have any number of people. The doctrine of necessity comes to play. Let's say, for example, on the Township Committee, there was multiple people out of conflict, and therefore you didn't have enough people eligible to vote. In that case, the doctrine of necessity kicks in, and anybody with a conflict could participate. But in this case, you're not required to have any, again, you could have just one person be the appropriate authority. So you're not required to have a quorum of the appropriate committee to take action, or a certain number of people to be on the appropriate authority.
Unless, and correct me if I'm wrong, but unless you do this you can do it by resolution or no?
No, again, going back to that, your ordinance does not expand the authority of the appropriate authority at all. In fact, it doesn't mention anything, so you look at the statute, and the statute only references that the appropriate authority is an oversight regarding rules and regulations. And actually, it can also have involvement in disciplinary actions. If you want the appropriate authority to have more authority than that, you would have to adopt an ordinance outlining additional powers of the appropriate authority. Or again, in a specific case, if it's only for one specific issue that you want the appropriate authority to be involved in, you could authorize it by resolution of the Township Committee. So if you wanted to permanently add powers to the appropriate authority, you'd have to adopt an ordinance and add it to that, amend that ordinance to include other authority. And you can amend the ordinance to only have one person if you wanted.
Okay, so I'm just to Mr. Crowell's point, and I understand what he's saying, because the council would be second
He'd be second in command,
And
correct?
command,
He is a second in command.
he is a second, right?
Yeah.
Right, so that's where I'm just.
Well, I think what John's saying, John, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically in Rochelle Park, our situation is that our proper authority would be 4 total individuals: the mayor, the police liaison, the administrator, and the police chief. Because the administrator and the police chief are the same person, we have 2, and 2 is okay, and 1 is okay. So there's really nothing that we have to do on our end to extend the proper authority. The only disadvantage that we obviously have is that it is a smaller group. So, that's the reality of our situation.
And just one other thing, because I didn't include this, when I was giving the examples of what they consider an executive officer, they also consider a public safety director as an executive officer, but you don't have that either.
Right.
But again, just to be
No, I
clear,
appreciate your
those
time.
are
Thank
the different examples they give as someone who is defined as an executive officer
Correct.
or administrator.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Good evening, Diane Hassel, Rachel Park. First, I want to also agree with everybody else. Dave, your crew were amazing. I appreciate, I know my street and others you guys did an awesome job. I had a couple questions. Oh, to pick up on what Jen mentioned, yes, the Boy Scout dinner is March 21st. With the snow and everything else, I didn't send anything out. I will be having, information sent out to Gina to spread, but I figured you had enough on your plate this week. We will be selling the tickets, same prices as always, $10 a head, $12 night of. I have 2 questions. One, on here, one of your, I'm just talking right then, one of your resolutions, I guess, when you talk about the work on Verdun Street, will that be including paving if it passes?
Do you want to touch on that, Grant? Dean?
It's going to include paving?
Yeah, we're actually awarding the bid for that
Okay, well, the
project.
reason I'm asking that is when they're paving the road, et cetera, what will that do to the ability to get to the municipal building and the library? Because if they're paving, the only entrance is off Verdun. Is there any thought of what will happen?
Yeah, we'll have to make changes probably to one driveway and, stagger the milling and paving as best we can.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
your
That-
building,
that-
your offices and the library won't be available while they're doing that. So it's just something to think about.
It's kind of like when it floods.
And the other thing, and I guess this might end up going towards Dean, but I don't know. I was curious, how many tenants are on the 2nd floor? And do they have a specified amount of parking allotted to each?
There's about 22 office spaces up there. We're at full capacity.
Yes.
And it's a conversation I had, but I will tell you, when I came into the administrator's role, I had maybe 3 tenants that were paying. And the township's realizing about $20,000 a month in revenue since I've taken over and brought in.
Oh, I think it's great.
Yeah, and I
They're all there.
understand, and I've had conversations about the ambulances, and there's 2 separate tenants that have those ambulances. It's a conversation that's ongoing. Going further, it's going to be limited to 2 spots.
That's exactly where I was going, because,
Yeah.
I mean, even coming tonight, between residents that park here all the time, and you have to assume they are because they're plowed in, and 4 ambulances that are here day and night, it takes a lot of spaces for residents when it comes to a meeting, so that's why I was curious. Thank you.
No, thank you, Diane. I think revisiting all the cars in the parking lot is definitely a topic of discussion that we should have this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Pete Donatello, Emergency Management. I got a couple of topics I'd like to just touch on. One, I'd like to read a statement into the record regarding the building department ordinance. The other is I'd like to address the council regarding the police department's promotion and their request. What I'd like to say is I really sincerely support constructive dialogue with the police department to fulfill that vacancy. For Lieutenant, I'm kind of surprised that you're only able to replace him with only one other lieutenant, considering all the work that that he had done. But according to the table of organization, if that allows for the lieutenant's position and then ultimately a sergeant's position to be filled as a concerned citizen and also a first responder working very closely with the police department over the years, I strongly encourage you to let the police department fill their table of organization and those vacancies as they see fit. To be honest with you, nobody really knows better than these guys here on what they need, and they are the professionals. They've always responded accordingly and acted that way. I just strongly encourage that kind of dialogue constructively to let these guys be able to do what they need to do, ultimately to keep them safe and then to be able to provide for the residents as they do. The other is, I just want to mention, but before I do that, I'm going to sit for a second, if it's okay. I'd just like to read into the record a statement regarding the building department ordinance, if that's okay. And what I'd like to have read into the record, and Gina, I'll be able to supply you with a copy by email tomorrow, is that I respectfully request that you, can't read my writing, just stand by a second. I respectfully request that you reconsider the ordinance regarding the building department based on several important concerns. First, from an emergency response and public safety standpoint. Emergencies don't always occur Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I can tell you firsthand the critical role the building department plays both inside and outside the normal business hours. As an example, Father's Day, just over a year ago, we responded to a house fire where a structural evaluation was required. Without hesitation, the inspector arrived within minutes, ultimately condemning the home as unsafe until repairs could be made. This determination allowed me, as the emergency management coordinator, to secure Red Cross assistance for temporary housing, clothing, and financial aid for the displaced residents. Most recently, in the flooding events, the inspectors have proactively surveyed flood-damaged homes and businesses, significantly expediting the permit process, which helps residents and business owners return to normal as quickly as possible. Inspectors also responded to 2 foundation issues discovered during evacuations. As soon as they were able to access the area, they assessed both homes, red tagging one due to structural damage, and determined the second was safe for occupancy. And this information was critical to give to the first responders so they wouldn't enter an unsafe structure. Not too long ago, we had a tree into a home. Sometime early last year at approximately 4 a.m., the inspectors responded to evaluate the structure's stability. Their prompt response again allowed me to quickly request Red Cross assistance for the affected family. Now let me just say on a personal note, we recently completed an addition to our home. If not for the extraordinary effort and availability of James and Al, this project will not have been completed based on our time constraints. I believe these are tenured roles, and removing 2 competent individuals who consistently make themselves available at all hours could present significant challenges. More importantly, it removes experienced professionals who constantly make themselves available, let alone the added cost of additional full-time employees to the taxpayers. Given these examples, I strongly urge you to reconsider your position. The building department's responsiveness, their expertise, and their commitment to our residents, and particularly during emergencies, are invaluable to our community and also cost-saving for the taxpayers. Respectfully, Steve Donatello, and I'll be happy to provide a copy of that to you tomorrow by email. And the last thing I'd like to say is that from an OEM standpoint, we recently met with 2 of our CERT members and reviewed the fire department's old special needs list. That list was up well over 100 individuals. After further inquiries by 2 of our CERT members, that list was narrowed down to about 75, 76 people. Out of those 76 people, they determined that they're still active. What we need to do now is transition them from the old fire department special needs list to the new register ready, which, I had made presentations in the past about. And in order to do that, the 2 individuals will be reaching out to those 75, 76 residents. We'll be doing that by phone calls again, and also providing them a copy of the form they need to register. Now, the registration is strictly online. You can't do it any other way other than getting on a computer and making that registration into that portal. If the residents are having difficulties doing that, these 2 CERT members have volunteered to do it for them. But what I need you to know, the point really is simply that they will be reaching out both by phone call again and also dropping off information to their homes. I don't want the residents to be concerned that people are coming to their homes looking for something other than a legitimate reason and a legitimate concern. So that'll happen probably in the next week or so. I think as soon as the snow gets out of the area, make it a little bit easier for them to travel. So we will be reaching out, and we will be getting that database up and running. Right now, Countywide, there's probably over 1,200 people. In that database, the Rochelle Park, we need to at least get that 70 some odd people uploaded into that system, so we have ready access to that. Okay? So,
Thank you, Pete. Just a quick question. So were you mentioning that you were reaching out to the folks who have already used Register Ready, or you're referring to reaching out to residents that are from the previous list?
yeah, this is from the previous list. We've only been able to register, self-registered rather there's only been 8 or 9 that were able to do it on their own. So we have about another 76 people or so that need to be put into the system. If they were on the old system, they need to now be transferred to the new system. The old system was just a matter of filling out a card with a questionnaire and sending it back to the fire department through their annual solicitation of funds. However, that's not acceptable anymore. So we need to get them into a computer-based system so that we have access to that in time of emergency. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just confirming if you still have legal access to that list, even though it was discovered that it wasn't a legal process getting the names, right?
But yeah, I don't know whether that was legal or not legal. The bottom line is we have access to it. We've already made these phone calls. We've already taken off probably 30 or maybe more than 30 people off of that list. Already contacted those that are on that list, and now it's a matter of getting them the paperwork that they need and assisting them getting that information into the portal. The legalities of it is, maybe a question for your counsel. I try not to give legal advice if I can avoid it.
I hear you. Yeah, Register Ready is extremely important, so thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. James D. Maria. I serve as the construction official, zoning official, CRS coordinator, floodplain manager for the Township of Rochelle Park. Since 2019, I've been through a lot with this town, through COVID, making sure this town stayed afloat, all your major construction, and for years have begged for, financial assistance, in the department to try to better the department, and fiscally, just, it could never be done. I didn't hear the building department report read at this meeting, but just to give everyone some transparency here, 2025 was the worst fiscal year for our department since 2022. We've seen a 235% decrease in revenue. Our annual report that we're required to submit to the DCA, our revenue last year was $149,612. Our expenditures in our department was $196,582. We were at a deficit, negative $46,970. I see, on the tonight's agenda, there's a introduction to create a full-time position within the department, replacing myself and my building subcode official, Al Reiner. We've worked tremendously hard, making, as Pete said, 24/7, 365 days a year, from the building department outside. Rochelle Park is a very small team of people that do a lot. And, for instance, recreation. Town can afford to buy a recreation program for kids to sign up for sports. So I had to go out of my way to make that happen. And Jen Beach could, she could vouch for me. My kid's birthday, getting calls, hey, we need to get the baseball registration up. Never said no. It got it done. You guys were able to take credit cards, and your program is ran. You're not going to find that in anybody else, but I'm not here to beg for my job. It's just, sometimes you don't know what you have until you lose that person. And my department's supposed to be self-efficient and operate off the money we generate. It shouldn't be an additional burden on the taxpayers. And you just had to revalue the people's taxes are going up, your utility bills is going up. I sat here, back in 2022 when, we're trying to generate more revenue and raise, the permit prices once again. I don't know how much you're going to bleed the residents once you get a full-time position, because it's just fiscally irresponsible. You're charging already for permit fees for a boiler replacement, $360. A boiler with a chimney line, $500. An EV charger, $130.
In order to make this position work, it's not there. We went from, $500,000 in revenue. I asked for extra inspectors to get the project done. We got a gas card for the guys so they could, supplement themselves because they wouldn't pay additional hourly rates. But you know what? We got the job. Nobody ever got a complaint.
What year was that?
That was Telfer. That was 23.
Got it. Thank you.
22. So, it's nice that, they want to invest money, but, there's never been a complaint about somebody not being able to get their building permit. The complaints are always code enforcement, and, our building inspector, our electrical inspectors, they do about 260 inspections a year. It comes out to 4 inspections a week. So there's really not much value, but if we look at the true statistics, our code enforcement officer, though, last year, part-time, did 1,500 inspections. 958, and that includes 958 complaint inspections, 147 resales, 303 just spot inspections, and 162 zoning inspections. So from a UCC standpoint, we're licensed professionals. The salary for those positions are much higher than if this town was to invest in code enforcement and bring in a code enforcement part-time, full-time during the day. It'd be much cheaper, and you'll get results. This position might look good on paper, but you're not going to get the results that you're expecting from having a full-time person in that role. And why just the building inspector? Why don't you have the electrical inspector that does more inspections than the building inspector? So I'm not really sure the reasoning behind just, we're going for efficiency, putting in a building inspector and not a multi-discipline, which would make the position a little more valuable at that point. But, I just, don't know, the approach on that. And, the other dangers, to come, the Assembly, they just passed the bill that allows developers to hire private inspection agencies without getting approvals from the town. So even if you do have large development, there's nothing saying that you're going to get those permit fees no more, which, is not good for the business to begin with. We still won't have backup inspectors, so when those inspectors are on vacation, you're still not going to have anybody to fill those shoes. So when the inspector goes away for 2 weeks, you're going to be 2 weeks without a vacation. There's still no administrative assistant to cover the technical assistant when she's on, like she is now, where I'm doing it all, which you're not going to get that from, any other construction official, most likely. And then, you have other additions. You got the floodplain. You have to get software for that. That's another $15,000. And the plumbing and electrical subcodes, they want comparable raises to what the building subcode gets. So, if you don't give them a raise, if they leave, then you're going to be looking for somebody else at even more money. So the financial burden of the department is just going to grow out of control. So, I object to, the resolution that you guys are about to vote on. But regardless, I enjoyed working, with the team and doing the best possible, that I could do for the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Linda Boniface, 33 Parkway, Rochelle Park. A couple things. The Open Space Grant Award, on the ordinance is written dog park. Is that just a fill-in, or is it to, because are the residents of around Carlock know there's a dog park coming? And look in the ordinance, but I don't think it, I thought it might have been just put in there. The other thing was, 2 months in a row, you have had to call a special meeting. Maybe last year, the year before, I tried to say to the council, you need to schedule 2 meetings a month. One just doesn't do it, and that just proved it. December and January, you had to call a special meeting. The other thing I want to talk about is the lieutenant position. I was on the township committee. There was 2 lieutenant positions that we always had. So it was me who asked Dean, give me a reason that you need another lieutenant. And he gave me a list. I don't recall what it is. I don't have it. But I looked at it and I studied it and I said, okay, told the township committee, I think we can make another lieutenant. And then that lieutenant got put in the school. High six-figure salary. It was like a slap in the face to sitting on, that's what I felt like. I got punched right in the face. Plus, didn't we last year hire a new officer? That was to fill in for a retiring officer? Okay, so that happened. So there's your officer. And then you got a SLEO. So in my opinion, you don't need another officer. And especially, you can put it on the back burner when you get through your budget. Because I don't think people are going to be really happy in this town if they get a budget increase this year. I know myself, my taxes went up $1,000, and I get it. The house went up in value by $250,000. Like, I get it. I know exactly what, I didn't have to call anybody, and I just want you to think consciously, look at your budget, do your budget first before you answer to anything. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Andrew Matson, 14 Eldorado. I'd like to thank the mayor, first of all, for allowing everybody more than 3 minutes to air their grievances, especially people that don't ever come to meetings. Maybe they should be. There's a lot of people that come here, volunteer their time for things like recreation. I heard of the term, somebody went out of their way. Somebody went out of their way for something for rec. That was just said in public. Somebody that collects a paycheck from this town went out of their way. I don't think that's really a thing. You're collecting a paycheck. You have a job to do. The building department, this is the first time I come to a lot of meetings. Land use, these meetings, recreation, whatever it is, if I'm available, I want to come. I want to hear what's going on in town. The building department's been bashed every meeting, land use, bashed. Not being there, not being able to be reached. So the 365, 24/7, it's just somebody's lying. I don't know who. That's what we've heard at the land use, that it's just not reachable. So the other thing I wanted to address is I live at the house next to the dumpster in El Dorado. So I don't think anybody here is going to tell me it's annoying them more than it's annoying me. Okay, is that fair? But I know that that's temporary. That's a job site. That's temporary. We all know, even if it's a 10-year job, right? These businesses we're talking about, those are going to be there forever. There's no end date on that job site, ever. So I think it's worth addressing. And if it's going to cost $30,000 to come to the land use board and they don't want to do that, well then fix the dumpster. Seems like pretty good leverage if it's a bad idea. It's just another, I'll speak for people that aren't here, that I can hear their voice in my head. Here we are again, bending over backwards for somebody else, but then when referencing this dumpster and whatever hardship it could bring a resident, it's like, well, let's immediately pounce on that and punish them. And I get it. I don't want the dumpster there either, but it's just the tact of it. To go from one sentence to, hey, we got to bend over for these businesses, to immediately the next sentence. And I'm sitting there listening to that. I don't really like that as a taxpayer that lives in this town, who has the dumpster next to him. So that was just kind of what I heard here tonight. They came before the land use board or the zoning board or the planning board for a site plan, whatever it was at one point, and that dumpster was discussed. And this ordinance, the law of the land, was in place, whatever it was that exists now for the dumpster, and they agreed to it. So why would we as a township not want to make the town look nicer? And based off of what I just heard here in public, you would think this town looks amazing. And I know as one of the few people in this room that actually knocks doors and talks to residents, that's not what the public thinks of this town. They have not kind words to say about its appearance. I would use the word horrendous, but it would be worse than that. Horrifying. There's a new majority up here. A lot of that was to do with how the town looks, code enforcement. There's a lot of numbers that get thrown out, stats, this many visits, this many, whatever it's the police or anybody else. What are we comparing those numbers to? I go to towns surrounding here, they have full-time building departments. I think that's a good thing to compare things to. So, do we want to be like the towns around us, or the same old, same old? I think everybody wanted to see some change. We're seeing change. Part of it is me being able to sit here and give my opinion for however long. I think that's a great thing. And thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Al Reiner, 91 Parkway. I'm a resident. I'm also the building inspector and subcode official. So what Mr. DeMaria had said, I agree with everything. And I've worked for this town for over 12 years. And I could tell you that from my experience in the past in doing all the inspections, that a full-time building inspector and construction official and subcode is not necessary. We have handled everything that the town has, the construction, everything. So as far as what the gentleman said here, he's not correct. Many towns don't have full-time inspectors. Maywood does not. That's a neighboring town. Elmwood Park does not. So I don't know where you got your information, but there's many towns that don't have full-time. And for this size town, it's 1 square mile. And most of the major projects are over. There's nothing new coming up that you need a full-time inspector. So, as I said, we've been able to handle it in the past, and through the years, all the years I lived here, most of the inspectors have been part-time. When I first moved here, the inspector lived on Catherine Street. He ran the building department out of his basement. It worked then. The building department ran out of the old schoolhouse on Rochelle Ave. It worked then. Now, you're better off now. You're not going to find a better person than James DeMaria for what he's done and the amount of time that he's been the inspector, the construction official. I have done my best. I haven't had any complaints, so I don't understand. The old saying is, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So this is exactly the case right here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you don't mind, I do.
Please, take a seat.
Davidson, Lexington Avenue. Again, I'm going to speak as a former administrator. I had the pleasure of being able to hire both of these individuals that are here today. I don't think that the problem is the building department. I think what the problem is property maintenance. And they're two separate things. I don't even know if you really understand everything that goes on with property maintenance. As far as what has to happen. First, the violation is observed. A letter has to be sent, am I correct? I mean, I think it would be really good if you would explain what the process is, if you don't mind, if it's okay. Because I think it's important for you to understand. Most cases, we don't even know what exactly took place. Did the violation get corrected? Did it not get corrected? Do we know that information? Because, I mean, I think that's extremely important. Again, I think these are two separate issues. And I got to tell you, again, when we were doing the construction out here, you had on 17, there was a lot of big construction going on. You definitely needed to have everything done. And these people did the job. They did the job. And I don't really think that anybody up here really has a complaint about the work that they do. I mean, so I personally don't understand why you would want, it's like cutting off the head of the chicken and you love the chicken. It's like, I mean, unless you have to eat it, it's ridiculous. Just my opinion. And I really think that, again, you need to address property maintenance because there's no question about the fact that that's what's needed here. And I can tell you that even with my own neighbors. But doing anything with getting rid of these people here, you're not going to resolve anything. Matter of fact, you're more than likely going to make matters worse, because now you're going to wind up losing a lot of your sub inspections, and you have some very good people there. So, listen, I highly respect both of those individuals there, and I respect the job that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Mayor, is it okay if I address the property maintenance?
If you don't mind making it brief, just because you already spoke.
Yeah, so like Bob said, code enforcement's plagued this town forever. Originally, when I first started, we had a code enforcement officer. He only worked 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week. It wasn't until, Chief Pinto came in where we were actually able to expand that to at least 15 hours a week. And, Don does an incredible job. He writes a ton of violations. It's not easy prosecuting a lot of these cases by the time you get them to court, and, it goes through that whole process. But, it would definitely be a major benefit to have a code enforcement officer here part-time, full-time, during the day, and just policing the streets no different than your police officers, because that's where all the complaints come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Ellen Sider. I live at 103 James Street. I'm a wreck. I've never done this. I've never went to a meeting, but I need your help. I have the largest tree in Rochelle Park on my property, and it dropped a massive limb on my fence, crushed my fence, brand new fence. And I panicked right away. I want to do the right thing. This tree, if it comes down, it will cut across Passaic Street, take the wires down, take everything down. So I quickly called, the town, told them I need a permit, take the tree down. No problem. With the help of, it was during the Christmas, right before Christmas. I go to pick up the permit. It's $200 to take it's called a widowmaker. The tree's, I had the arborist come check out the tree. The tree's dead. It can go any second, or it could go in 6 months. With this weather that's coming up, it could fall on my house, my neighbor's house. It can fall across Passaic Street, and then it's not my problem. I mean, I have to pay to remove the tree, the $1,800. I have to pay to repair the fence, which is 3 months old. It cost me $5,000. And then I just have to pay $200 for a permit to get this done. I think is just insanity. And they told me the only way I could do this is approach the board and see if you guys can help me, or apparently, and I don't know the correct word, an ordinance was signed, and for someone in town to take down a tree, it goes by the girth of the tree. So, well, they ran out, measured the tree while I was at work, and because the tree is 2 inches, I believe, I'm not sure, you'd have to get I think it's from this to this to this to this. It went from $100 to $200 for 2 inches. So I don't know if you're aware if that's what you signed in, and I don't know if that was the effect that you wanted to cause on your citizens of the town. Between the taxes going up $200 to take the tree down. I worked for the county. My salary went down $50 every 2 weeks. So what can I do? What can you do to reduce this permit to remove a dead tree that's called a widowmaker? That I have to pay a $200 permit. Anything that can be done? Someone, they told me if I address you, that I could get 3 people to agree.
Teresa would like to speak. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor. We do have an ordinance that we did sign for that, if I may. And I believe at the bottom, I did show the administrator that it does say that if the tree is dead and determined by the DPW, and you have something for it, that this can be looked at. I believe I said that to the administrator. Did you not hear back from?
No, I didn't go back to pick up the permit. I have the letter here from the arborist.
That says it's totally good.
Right, it says you could read it.
I mean, I believe you, but I'm just saying that,
It's
you know.
for the will maker, if you told me, because it can go, and it was,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, but,
So the ordinance is not in front of us right now. Dean, do you know off the top of your head, I'm sure Dave might know, that what is the fee schedule? And that's mandated by the DEP.
That was DEP, right, we had an enacted tree removal ordinance mandated by the DEP. What it says on the bottom is that in lieu of replacement fee, that can be waived. It doesn't talk about the permitting fee being changed. So I did recommend that she come before this committee because, you know, only you can violate your own ordinances via reso or, you know, that type of action. I referred this first to the Shade Tree Commission, and Mr. Warren's on board with the current process and permitting fees. So, you know, it's beyond me at that point. He's a commission. I did recommend that the resident come here to speak to you guys.
tell me that if, to get the letter from the tree guy, because that, there might be a reduction of cost if the tree is dead and a harm. And I will plan on replacing the trees because I'm huge with the trees, I'm probably going to do 10 trees to this one, but I cannot in good conscience leave the tree up knowing it might fall on my house, my neighbors, or of course, the street. And if there's anything they can do to reduce, I understand you have to pay a permit, $100, but $200 because the tree is 2 inches too big. It's just, and with the storm coming up, I mean, I wanted to take it down before the storm, but I just was waiting for me.
Yeah, we appreciate you bringing it to us. Have you contacted your homeowner's insurance regarding this?
The homeowners pays for the 10,000 pound land that crushed the fence to remove it. They do not pay for the removal of the tree. That's my problem. And I'm willing to pay the $1,800 to remove the tree. And the Mac building's very nice, we're going to let you have the crane come that way. But it's just the principle of the $200 to pay for the permit to do the right thing. It's not like replacing a boiler or something. I'm doing almost, I feel, the town a favor, because I'm paying for the removal of the tree that could cause harm to the citizens. That's how I'm looking at it. And I was hoping there was something that you can do about it. Or rethink the ordinance or whatever that you signed into place, because I don't think it's correct to the town.
As the administrator mentioned, it's a state mandated ordinance, but let's do this.
But did it have to be, but you guys signed it into, because I've spoken to
Yeah,
other towns,
because it's
they're like, yeah, Westwood, yeah, it's $100 to take down any tree, take the tree down.
Yeah, that was mandated by the state. That was the information that was provided to us by our council, and that was passed. Yeah, that was passed last year.
Last year.
As far as stormwater management regulations are adopted, the MS4, yeah.
So, but here's what we can do. If you don't mind staying behind, I'll get your email, and then we can have a conversation, and we can discuss this at the next township meeting on February 11th. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I had a question to that.
Go ahead.
Is Dave still here? I can't see behind that.
Yeah, Dave's here.
Yeah, Dave's right there.
Dave, you back there somewhere?
He's right there, yeah.
Dave, at that meeting, at the environmental meeting, right? Or it was at the tree commission meeting, right? There was a discussion about the size, the diameter of that tree. Was that remeasured? Was it like within an inch of the limit of going from 100 to 200?
It wasn't remeasured, it was just based off the first measurement. So it's based on the diameter at breast height. So you take the circumference.
2 pi r, go ahead, I'm with you.
Do this. I got the calculator in the phone, does the math for me, tells me what the diameter is. So that's ultimately what the goal is. The ratios go, I want to say, from 8.99 inches on non-street trees and up to 12.99 to $50. Then it goes 13 inches to 22.99 for $100. After the 23 on up, I want to say, if I remember correctly, the diameter on that tree would be either 24 or 26. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't know.
Was it close to the limit? Close to a cutoff?
I would assume so. I mean, it's probably between 1.5 inches bigger than what it is. My only thing, you set the ordinance, you're following it. I know Mr. Sider very well. I've coached his daughter in soccer for a long time.
Me too.
I'm not arguing with.
No, I understand.
I'm just looking for a way
I
out.
understand. But if you take that ordinance and now you change it now, to everybody else who paid it in the past get the opportunity, that's my own thing. If you want to change it going forward, that's a different ballgame. But
That's what I'm asking, to
it's
change it,
written.
go forward, and that can be changed. That's something I think that should be changed for the sake of the town. I mean, and
Dave, go back over there with the shorter ruler.
I appreciate it. Pete, I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. You already spoke, so I do want to keep the meeting going.
I can speak on a different topic, correct?
No, you already spoke, so I know that Mr. DiMaria already came up a second time, but that's because Mr. Davidson specifically asked him to reference something. So I'm going to keep going. If anyone else from public comment wants to speak.
What I'd like to do is just address this tree thing from an emergency management standpoint in the effort of public safety. I think it probably behooves you for me to say that, look, I mentioned an incident earlier at 4 o'clock in the morning. By the grace of God, that tree came through the house, and it was 4 in the morning. People weren't in the dining room or in the kitchen. Nobody got killed, and they had 2 small kids. I think what was described here is imminent danger. And I would certainly encourage you to do whatever you could do to work with this person to get this done as soon as possible. We do have bad weather coming in, although we may not get the storm, or get the snow rather. The storms are going to produce high winds over the weekend, which could...
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
Anybody else?
Hold on, Tom, I'm looking at this ordinance right now, and it does have hazardous trees may be removed with no fee or replacement requirement. And that's in the ordinance that I have right here, and that's the ordinance of 173. This is what was last year. I did speak to the administrator about it. I know I did talk to him about it, and I know he went to State Street, so I'm not quite sure why this was.
Right. So as I mentioned, the resident, please stay behind. We'll get your contact information.
Where'd you go?
I don't have the ordinance in front of me, so I wanted to just review it to see if there was any language similar, and it sounds like it is there, so stick behind and let's talk. Anybody else? I heard you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Please.
I'd like to get up one thing. Building department.
We
I
gotta
looked
make this
into
really
this.
short, Linda.
Building
Thank you.
department is for compliance. It's not less necessary to generate money for the township. But meanwhile, a lot of years before they built 120 and Oak Street got built, the revenue was down, down, down. If you look at the revenue came in when 120 was built and Oak Street was built, it was through the roof. Am I right? So it's not about generating money, it's about compliance. So I'm not buying a house that somebody did faulty electric in, or plumbing, or whatever. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yakabuchi, Commercial Park on Ward Street. For the first time in my life, I agree with Ms. Boniface. You are absolutely 100% correct. You can't break things. You came in, you're a new governing body, but you can't break it up. This works. It works good. You can't disturb. You can't do that.
Anybody else? All right, hearing or seeing none, do I have a motion to close public comments?
Motion. Sorry.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman P.J.?
Yes.
Committeewoman Fellows?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaworski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right, our next item is the introduction of ordinance number 26-001, entitled Adoption of Regulations Restricting the Planting, Growing, or Cultivating of Bamboo. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 26-001?
Yes.
Motion.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Roll call.
Committeewoman Peachy? Yes. Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right, moving right along, our next item is the introduction of ordinance number 26-002, amending the Township Code to repeal Chapter 104 entitled Flood Hazard Areas and adopt a new Chapter 104 entitled Flood Management Regulations, including adoption of flood hazard maps, designation of a floodplain administrator, and provisions for severability and an effective date. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 26-002?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. The ordinance is introduced. All right, sewers. Our next item is the introduction of ordinance number 26-003, amending Chapter 155 of the Township Code entitled Sewers. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 26-003?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Ordinance 26-004, construction codes. Next item is the introduction of ordinance number 26-004, amending Chapter 80 of the Township Code entitled Construction Codes, Code Enforcement Department. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 26-004?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Peachy? Yes. Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. The ordinance is introduced.
And may I please sign a quick statement?
Yes, please.
Notice is hereby given that ordinances 26-001 through 004 were introduced and passed at first reading at a meeting of the Township Committee of Rochelle Park held today, January 28th, and ordered published in accordance with the law. Said ordinances will be considered for final reading and adoption at a meeting held on February 11th at 7 p.m. in the Township of Rochelle Park Municipal Building, at which time all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning such ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial by Township Committee and will be approved by one motion unless a committee member or citizen so requests. This consent agenda ranges from resolutions 26-057 to 26-073. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Peachy? Yes. Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes. Did you say 2655 or 53? Isn't it 55?
2605?
Oh,
Yeah,
five, oh,
Five.
oh, weird, so for mine, okay.
All right, sorry.
05, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, 552-073.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Are you wanting to roll call again or no?
Roll call, please.
Okay. Committeewoman Peachy? Yes. Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you so much. The next Township Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, February 11th at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.